Hi, and welcome to Equine Voices. My name is Ronnie, and I am your host for today's interview. So I'm just waiting for Justin to join me. So hopefully that won't be too long. This is live, and anything could happen. Yeah, this is live. So, okay. So Justin Dunn from Justin Dunn Husbandship will be joining me shortly. And I think he's just joined me. So just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I'll bring him on shortly. So I spoke to Justin, I think it was about 2 years ago. I had to look to see when we last did an interview, and I was convinced in my head that was our third get together, but I think it's our second. Justin was one of the original people that I contacted when I first started my podcast. And I was aware of him through his YouTube videos, YouTube channel, and his horse Cinnamon, which is an amazing horse, and Moonshine. Which he is no longer with us in body, but he is in spirit. Anyway, I'm going to bring Justin in, and then he can introduce himself and say hi, rather than me just chat on. Okay. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Ronnie, how are you?
I'm fine. I was having a bit of a panic. I was thinking, okay, he's not here.
Oh, apologize. I got a new computer and I forgot that I hadn't set Facebook on it.
Oh, no worries. Don't worry about that. That's fine. Okay. So, is this our second get together, or is it our third?
I don't know. I think second.
I think it is second, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's because we tried to get together at the beginning, but it took a little while for us to both sort of sort a date out before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so would you like to introduce yourself? Can you just adjust your lighting a little bit so people can see you? I don't know if you can, but don't worry if it's
Oh, it's
gonna.
probably because the window's behind me.
Yeah,
Is that better?
that's better. Yeah, that's better. People can see you then. Okay, so the floor's yours. Off you go, Justin.
Okay. My name's Justin. I wrote it on the thing there. So I have a school in Aberdeen, North Carolina, and we teach horsemanship and health and wellness, mental health and wellness through horsemanship for our military and their families. And I moved from Colorado to here to do that. So we're having a blast doing that. I got to play with a new horse today. His name's Gus, and his owner wants him to kind of understand the basics or have a good foundation of the human element. So we get to play with him, help him understand that. And it runs along the lines of what I teach in our school to horses and people. And there's 5 levels. We start with level 1 and work through to level 5. And the horses have a deeper understanding of what we expect of them. And then we get a deeper understanding of the horses as we do that.
Thank you, Justin. Would you like to talk about the main horses in your life that you've had? So a little bit about Cinnamon, and I know I mentioned Moonshine, and have Sunshine. Would you like to chat a little bit about those?
Yeah. So Cinnamon, you mentioned her.
Yeah.
She's a Mustang that we got, I believe it was in 2013. And she was caught out of Calico Mountains, Nevada. So she's a Nevada horse. She came to us. I did a Mustang makeover with her in Fort Worth. And 25 Days Out of the Wild, I shot that little video with my daughter, Emma. Emma was 2 at the time. And then I posted the video a year later, and it went viral. So Cinnamon's pretty famous, a lot more famous than I'll ever be, but that's okay. She deserves it. And she's still here with us. She does a lot of our level 5 classes. She's a bridleless horse. People can ride her bridleless, and she's very good at it. So kind of showcases the intelligence of the Mustang, and then allows people that would never have access to a horse of that caliber access. And I didn't really want a mare mixed in with all my geldings, but she's kind of the mother hen of all my geldings, so she keeps everybody in order, and that really helps out a lot in the school. So yeah, her coming to our school or coming to us has been very beneficial in our school. And then, I mean, every horse that we have is beneficial in some regard because they all bring something different. Cinnamon's just a really affectionate type horse, and she helps people that are apprehensive about horses calm down, and really like that about her. So then, what other horses did you want to know about, Ronnie?
So you had, so you've got Sunshine,
Mm-hmm.
and you had a beautiful horse, Moonshine, as well.
Yeah, Moonshine. He's he's kind of here with us all the time
Yeah.
because that horse was one of the defining. Was a horse that really defined my horsemanship, I should say. And he was a horse that could really read intent in people, and he could really understand where they were coming from much quicker than they could understand at first. So Moonshine prepared me for a bunch of horses that have come after that horse. And then Sunshine, he's kind of the follow-up to that. As far as what Moonshine started, Sunshine's still finishing, I should say. Moonshine kind of prepared my mind. Sunshine, he's kind of preparing my body. And the mind-body connection is really important. One of the things we teach in horsemanship is the mind-body connection. And whatever a horse is doing, it's a reflection of what they're thinking. It's the same thing with a person. Whatever a person's doing, it's a reflection of what they're thinking. And horsemanship, horse-human relationship, allows those connections to become very strong and recognizable within each other. So a lot of people don't understand that they're doing things through action that stem from a thought, but they may not consciously be thinking that thought. Horses, they're real good at showcasing that to help us. So Moonshine, he helped me see the mind-body connection and how important it was to consciously be aware of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what our attitude is, and then what our actions are. And at that point, prior to meeting Moonshine, I wasn't aware of the depths I am now, but based on that horse, Moonshine, he defined it very clear for me. So whenever I teach today, it stems from a lot of the things I learned with Moonshine. So that's when I say he prepared me for today. That's what I mean. He helps me help other people understand 4 things within ourselves we can control. And that being thoughts, emotions, attitude, action. And in developing communication with Moonshine, I had to understand those 2 pathways of communication, which were the inner thought and emotion, and then the outer attitude, action. When I consciously thought of all these things and tied them together, thinking in the combination of those things, I developed a really strong relationship with Moonshine that was probably will never be duplicated again with any other horse. But that's the cool thing about horses. They're all unique and different relationships in itself. So with Sunshine, it was understanding those 4 things, consciously paying attention to them, and presenting the best version of myself to Sunshine to develop that relationship. So as someone told me one time, the moon prepares the mind, the sun prepares the body, or something like that. It's pretty evident to me that those 2 individual horses have helped me pretty much write this book that I just wrote, because in understanding what we can control and then take an initiative to do it, which is the 4 things within ourselves: thoughts, emotions, attitude, action, presenting that to the horse, whatever horse we're playing with, and then observe their feedback and be willing to make changes in one of those 4 things or all 4 things to present the best version, observe the feedback, make changes, do it again. We get into what it's called what I call a feedback loop. And having a feedback loop with each individual horse helps us refine those 4 things we can control, which are thoughts, emotions, attitude, action. And then each horse that I've played with ever since pretty much Moonshine, I've kind of got a deeper understanding of each piece of those 4 things. So thoughts, some horses, they know when you're engaged in the moment with them, and then when your mind drifts, they're very acutely aware of that. Or maybe an emotion changes and they're intently acute on that. They key in on an emotion that might come up based on a thought, and then always an attitude and action, because those are pretty outward things. You're going to give them a visual of whatever you're thinking and feeling. So your attitude and action are equally important as the inner pathway, which is thoughts and emotion, as attitude and action. So they're all important, but each horse cues in on each different one and helps us get a better, clarity through engagement. Otherwise, I don't know where you could learn how to control oneself through thought, emotion, attitude, action. We could present it to other people, but it could get tricky because there's a lot of barriers there that are not with horses. A lot of artificial barriers, I should say. But it's one of those things. I've tried to sit in front of a mirror or even do something like this, where I just look into a camera and talk and try to focus on, those 4 things. But it's not easy to do that. With horses, it's real easy to do that. So
Yeah. Sorry, Justin.
So I didn't want to get too off track, but those are what those 2 horses that you mentioned kind of bring to the table and bring to the school nowadays.
Yeah, horses are very authentic. What you see, they present themselves with authenticity. So there's no hiding. They show you what's going on with yourself as well as with them. But they definitely show you what's going on with yourself. And and if you did that with people, apart from getting funny looks for you practicing that, it doesn't quite have the same effect. Now, I know you just mentioned about your book. Now, is this correct that you have a new book out and it's your first book? Is that right?
Yeah, it's not out yet. The manuscript is done. It's turned in to the publisher. Pictures are being sent over to place in the book, and it should be done within weeks from now. So it's getting close.
Okay, so are you allowed to just mention a little bit about what it is, or do you have to wait for that to come out?
No, I don't have to wait.
Okay.
I can do whatever I want. I wrote the book.
You certainly did, and you
Yeah.
certainly can.
Yeah, so it's a long book, longer than I had thought, but the editor that I enlisted to help me do this helped me shorten it, distill it down, so to speak, because it's 20 chapters, but it could have probably been 80 chapters. So we got to save some for another book. But it's 20. I have the manuscript right here. Actually, it's not too big.
We won't read that today then.
No. Story time. You ready, Ronnie?
So what made you write a book, and what was the inspiration that sort of prompted you to start your book?
Okay. Well, I've been given information over the years because I eagerly searched for this type of information, and I've got to share it with people, and I've got to witness what it does for them and transformation. So I thought, man, I better write this down in case I get, I have to leave Earth quicker than I want. I should, yeah, right. I should write this down because, like anything, if we don't leave some sort of information for the next person, they just have to go through everything that I had to go through to figure it out too. So why not give them a shortcut? So I wrote it down best I could, and I'm not a writer, so good luck on the reading. But I hired a professional to help me, so he said I was a good writer. I never knew that, but the words just came as I wrote, and some of it's from life experience. I think I referenced back to when I was 5 years old and first experiences with horses, and kind of set the tone or planted a seed, so to speak, for what's happening today. Um, the other thing is, I'd like to see the things that we do today be duplicated. So I kind of wrote a blueprint, um, kind of a roadmap, maybe, or a manual to follow, and at least springboard into something even better. Uh, I came up with this, but I think if people could read it and use their own ingenuity and imagination, it's limitless on the things that it could provide for horses and humans. And that's why I wrote the book.
That's a perfect answer. And why not? But you're not going anywhere, by the way.
No, I don't plan to.
Good. So I know a little bit about you, and I know that you moved from Colorado to where you are now in North Carolina, and you've spent a lot of time working with children and adults. But what is your place at where you are now? What is the kind of work that you are doing?
Okay. Well, if you really kind of describe what we're doing, it's research and development, proof of concept in how horses can heal humans. And I have a contract with the military, and I have to be careful what I say with that, because the type of people that come out here really don't even exist. So they're super elites, and the special operating forces of the Army and Marine Corps. And it's one of those things that we get to present to them something that is probably not thought of as a healing modality, so to speak. I mean, there's no drugs involved. There is actually psychologist involved. However, the horse becomes center, and it's one of those deals where a person starts to really have to look within to find answers to whatever it is that they are going through. Military is it's a tricky business. Military. I was military, so I got a good understanding of what it's all about. It's probably the biggest vice of conformity that a person could put themselves in. And with our wild horses, being captured off the range and then brought into the human element, there is a way to do that to where it's very smooth transition. Our military members, they're expected to do certain things that normal civilian people are not expected to do. And so they go out of human element in a lot of ways and for extended period of time. And then they come back into the human element, and they're expected to just transition smoothly. Well, the crossovers in a wild horse and our military member are so almost identical that what we do here at the school is ask the horses to help us help people help themselves. So in other words, I'm just a facilitator. I have the horses, I have an understanding, I set the stage, but the person and the horse develop their own relationship unique to them. And it's not anything that I can create or destroy. It's accessible by them doing what it is I show them to do. And that's what the book's about as well. I show simple, I distilled it down so simple, and basically 5 things to allow a person to develop a relationship with a horse. But as they do that, they find a deeper understanding of themselves and have the ability to control those 4 things we talked about earlier, which are thoughts, emotions, attitude, and action. And when a person consciously observes themselves inward and outward, and then gets a nanosecond feedback from the horse, and then does it again, repeats it, we start to understand these laws of nature that exist. And most people that come here, they don't even know what the laws are in order to obey them. They don't know what they are. So just something simple as the law of cause and effect. You think a thought, there's going to be a cause and then the effect. Do an action as a cause, and the result of that action is an effect. So just understanding that one simple law. Horses abide in them every day and know them very well. Laws of compensation. I mentioned these in my book. These laws that the horses abide in, they don't have the ability to drift out of those. They're pretty much adhere to them because the strongest law of nature is self-preservation. So especially a wild horse, they're not going to just cruise over to the bar and start drinking and smoking and doing things that are going to destroy themselves. But a human has the ability to do that. And whenever you put that into context and start engaging in a conversation with horses, the brain and the body start to communicate correctly and harmoniously, which is agreement. So when the brain and the body of the human are disconnected in a way to where they're not harmonious, they're not in agreement, that's when you get problems. That's when mental health and physical health and all that break down. And yeah, you could deal with it in the beginning stages, but then it gets stronger and stronger, those disconnections, and people don't like the way it feels, so they sometimes self-medicate. Alcohol kind of cause a gap in those dominant thought patterns, the way they feel. Well, we all know what that leads to. So horses can cause that same gap in those dominant thought patterns and the way the body feels, restrictions in the mind, tensions in the body. A person can sustain that for a while, but then there starts to get dis-ease, not any specific disease, but dis-ease in the body, in the mind. And then that strong law of self-preservation starts to kick in, and then a person starts having some real issues. But horses can help balance all that back out when we align with them and we start practicing being conscious of what we're thinking, feeling, our attitude, and what we're doing. And then we gain control over that. Some of those old thoughts they actually just go away. They're replaced with thoughts you want, not the ones you don't want. So to answer your original question, what we do here at the school is we're providing a proof of concept that this actually works. Research and development that it actually works. I get to witness military people, men and women, that have literally placed their lives on the line and done things that are, normal people don't ever get to, would ever do. And then they have to deal with it. And then, 17 years in, they realize, wow, I'm in trouble. Where do I turn? So they start turning to all these other things that, we have proof don't work. So American Mustang School was brought here 2019. And now it's an option. It's accessible. And more people are finding out about it. So they come out here and I get to witness exactly what I wrote in the book. I get to witness. So that's another reason why I wrote the book, is because I get to see that this actually works. But I'm only accessible to so many people by just being in the spot, and the people that could come here, the volume of people, it's pretty small. So writing it down, have a leveraged impact for other people to read it and develop it wherever they are. I don't even care to own the name of the schools that pop up all over. I would rather them use their own imagination, but just follow the criteria that I've laid out, and then enhance it, of course. But at least it's distilled down to where people can add to, different things to it to make it their own. But I follow what I wrote in this book almost daily, and I get to witness what it does for people, what it's done for me, and then what it does for people, what it does for horses. So I hope that answers pretty good on why I wrote the book and what am I doing here at the school.
No, it did. It did. I was listening intensely, and I know it's hard to explain sometimes, but you're very aware of your emotions and your energy and how I know before we talked about how you was in the past, and how horses have shown you a different way to be about yourself, to be around yourself, other humans, and obviously the horses. So if people are looking for something that you're offering, how do they get in touch with you? Do they have to be referred, or can they just email you and ask to come and see you in the horses?
Yeah, it's very open. So we have a closed contract with the military. So that's one piece. The public can literally call. In fact, I have a lot of people coming in that are civilian. I have a mother that brings two of her children, and then a lot of retired veterans that aren't active duty anymore, and then just basic individual. I have a professor from a college close by. She just wants to have horse time. Don't even have to be focused on mental health and wellness. Of course, it always benefits that. But I just had a lady ask yesterday if she could just take horsemanship classes, learn how to interact with a horse and ride. So there's the cool thing about the way I set this school up is it's tailored to the individual's needs. So email, call, get in contact is fine. However, Facebook, it doesn't matter. The thing we do is we tailor it to the individual's needs. So I also have a little Facebook group, and there's hundreds of videos in there that'll give kind of a basis for what we teach at the school. I've kept out a lot of what we teach at the school just because of developing it, researching it, developing it. And I want to make sure it works before I tell other people to do it. And then the other thing was I wanted to get it into this book and copyright it and all that before I send it out in our online group. But as soon as that book hits the streets, we're going to really dive into the book and dissect it and get people a real good understanding. So my online group will still be here, and that's another way to get involved, or start gathering some information that'll help the person and their horse.
Thank you, Justin. Somebody's asked a question. Can you see the comments, by the way? I'll pop that one on. So that's from Julie. Do you know that lady?
Oh yeah, I know Julie. She's from
So
Colorado.
she's asking what the title. Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, I'll say the title because I had like 4 working titles and I kept just running back between what they would be. And the title that I think we've kind of narrowed it down is going to be A Horse to Guide Me. I think that's the title.
That sounds lovely. That sounds lovely.
Yeah.
So Julie says hi. Hi, Julie. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Or a horse that guides me. Something to that nature.
A horse that guides me.
Yeah.
It has a nice. So are they the 2 main ones that you're going with?
Yeah, I mean, it's the others probably aren't even worth mentioning because they're titles in the book now, so they're there. They're chapter titles. But when writing this book, like I said, I could have probably made it 80 chapters. I had to distill it down and try to capture the reader's attention long enough to get to the good stuff, in my opinion. But, advanced intricacies of horsemanship, when I teach horsemanship, depending on the individual's level of understanding, we have 5 levels that we teach. So level 1, I could invest hours just teaching that. And that's just grooming for mindset. Understanding those laws of nature, understanding how we as people fit in nature, and then how we can control the 4 things within ourselves to coexist with all nature harmoniously. Horses are the best teachers at that. So just level 1, I could have wrote a book on level 1. So I distilled level 1 down as much as possible. And then level 2, we go into established communication with a horse. And each individual horse has, it's infinite on what kind of things you would get revealed to you in interacting with individual horses. So in other words, I have 9 horses here at the school, actually 10. I have 10 horses here at the school. Each one of those, when we engage in level 2, is going to reveal to an individual certain things. And then each individual that comes here, that horse adapts to them. And then I'll see different things. So it's like, wow, this is the capillary actions of horsemanship. It's not just linear. It's like tentacles in all different directions. And then as you explore each of those tentacles, it gets more and more beautiful and more blissful. And then your mind, I say your mind just gets, ravished with all this energy that I don't know where else you could get it. I may be a whale or a dolphin. I don't know. But whenever people come and play with horses, the things that horses bring, that will reveal once we go into level 2, it's phenomenal. It really is. And then go into level 3, where we transfer from the ground to their back. I could write a book on that, because now they're in a sustained feedback loop, moving in unity together through nature. Well, headed that way. Level 4, we get more toward that. And level 5, you're definitely in nature. So those 5 levels I had in the book, but I could write a lot more information on each one than I did. So yeah, looking forward to getting feedback from people as this book gets out there.
So when is the book due to be released?
Well, I talked with the publisher today, and there's no hard deadline yet, because I've sent in everything except 25 pictures. I got to send in 25 more pictures, and I am not computer savvy, so I called them today and like, hey, I sent you 5. Did it work? So I haven't got any feedback. I'll probably know tomorrow on those 5 pictures, but I was real picky on the pictures. So I've kind of been the one delaying it. To answer your question, it's probably in the next few weeks, 2, 3, maybe a month at the most.
Oh, good. So before the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking
I wrote
forward
this book. I started writing it last May.
Okay.
May 10th, I started writing it. And I just told myself I want to take 1 solid year to make sure this gets written out and gets published. So we'll beat the deadline.
I've never written a book, but I'm assuming or guessing that when you start to write, especially when it flows, because that's your essence flowing through. If you put pen down, you start writing, and it's just flowing. That's because it's meant to be that way. But I suppose you can get sidetracked, and as you're describing one thing, you have to go into something else and something else. A bit like a conversation. Sometimes you can have a conversation with somebody, and you get sidetracked. So I suppose being focused is the main part of when you're starting to do a book.
Well, it's one of those things. I even explained this in the book. I've built 3 homes, 3 houses, and I used to have to train myself to go and do it. Not necessarily the actual physical act of doing it, but find the energy to go do it. So I would say to myself, I would say, self, we're just going to go cut 1 board. So whenever you think, I'm going to cut 1 board, then back that thought with the emotion of like some enthusiasm, like, yeah, just 1 board. And then we did something. And then your attitude lifts up a little bit. And then you're like, okay, now I feel some motivation coming in. And then the action, you're like, your legs start carrying you over to do it. And then you cut 1 board and it leads to 2, and then 2 lead to 3, and 3 lead to 4. And before you know it, you've been there 8 hours and you got a lot done. Well, same thing with training horses. I'll just say, well, I'm just going to go do 1 series of questions. Well, that always led to 2, to 3. And then before you know it, you had a good 2-hour session and you got a lot done. So when writing a book, it was like, well, I'm just going to write 1 sentence today, just 1. Well, that 1 turned into 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. And then before you know it, you did 4 or 5 pages. And then it's like, wow, I did 5 pages today. So it's just a matter of getting the thought that I'm just going to do 1, break it down into tiny pieces. Obviously I didn't say I'm going to write a whole book. So I'm going to write a sentence. Heck, sometimes I just write a word and I just look at that word, and then it would just explode with all these other words. And I just start writing words, filled a whole paper with words one day. And I was like, wow, where'd all these words come from? What do they mean? So then I started writing what they meant. And then I was like, well, I need to put this into some kind of context. I'm not a writer. I just figured out how to do it myself. And then I took this little phone here, and it has a thing where I could speak into the notes. So a lot of times I'd be on the back of a horse and I'd get an idea and I'm like, oh, I need to say this. So I would just say it into my phone. And then I'd just ride along, talk along, and kind of like the horse would know what I was doing. So then they would kind of like remind me, hey, don't forget to say that. Oh, yeah. And then I would just talk and ride along. And then before I knew it, I had like notes full in my phone. So I would email those notes to myself, and then I would see it on this computer that I'm looking at now, and I would edit it because the phone doesn't always transcribe it correctly. And sometimes it's pretty funny of what it does transcribe. So I would have to correct all that. And then I would just kind of organize it. And then whenever I wrote my manuscript, it was a lot of copy and paste and put it into the manuscript. And then when I sent it to the editor, he organized it even better. But his response was, man, you're a really good writer. And I was like, well, I've never wrote anything in my life. This was the first time. So thank goodness that it kind of came out legible that anybody could understand. But it was fun. I kid you not. Writing this book was fun. And as you write a book, it actually kind of takes its own little life form. And then you want to nurture it and help it grow. So then it brings into a lot more clarity and perspective. So when I'd go out with the horses and the people, I would really pay attention a lot more so I could gather information to put in the book. So then when I put it in the book, I'd want to run back out and grab more information, and then I'd put it in the book. So it's just like went hand in hand, kind of complemented, doing and writing. So it actually was really easy and fun.
I think most things are that, well, generally most things are if you've got an enthusiastic energy about it and a feel about it. And that was funny when you was talking earlier about saying when you was building your house that you do 1 plank first. That's all you'd be thinking about. I can't remember where I heard it, but it's something to do with the mind, the brain, that if you try and think of a big chunk, it sort of shuts off. It starts to shut off. Whereas if you say we're just going to do a little bit, then it's okay, I'll let you do that. Or that's not quite right, really, but do you know what I mean? And then, like you said, you get enthusiastic, and then that gives you the impulse to do the next bit and then the next bit. But I was also laughing when you said about your phone and you talk into your phone. I do that quite a lot. because when I'm driving, I get inspiration, I get thoughts and messages to pass on to people, and that's the first thing, because it's easy just to put it into the recorder on my phone, and then I can just pass them on. It's a lot easier, and you get really excited. And sometimes if you think of an idea, you haven't got a pen and paper. It's easier just to pop it into the phone, so that you don't forget, like you said.
I know, and now I do it all the time. You kind of create a habit, I guess. And I was trying to think of what the last thing I put in here. I put some highlights for the book. That was like the last thing that I did. Like, I need to highlight some things. And yeah, that's the way to do it. You get an idea. They say it doesn't really become real until it is written down. And I can remember in business, my dad would tell me, you got to document it or it didn't happen. And when you write an invoice for a job that we did. So if it's not documented, it didn't happen. As far as, I'm going to send you a bill, Ronnie, for doing a job, but you weren't there to see me do it. I have to write down what I did to send you the bill so you can read what I did. Then it became real. So it's kind of interesting whenever you think of it in that term, real, but write it down. And it was a thought. Whenever you write it down, it became real. You can actually touch it. It's real.
I think it magnifies it too. So a thought is a thought, and sometimes it can sort of not landed, or it's just floating around. And then when you put pen to paper, quite often I know there's something coming, and I'll either record one word, and a word comes, and I record the word, and then the rest of the conversation comes, or I'll write it. But normally for me, it's recording, because I'm normally driving when that happens, or doing something. So I think it's like it's landing, and then the rest of it can come through. It's a little bit like turning a tap on a faucet. You turn it on, and then the rest comes flushing through.
Yeah.
And that's the same with energy, with your thoughts, with
Yeah.
That's my explanation.
I agree. Energy is information. So information is wanting to get out because it's an energy. So whenever you have a thought, thoughts come and go. But if you can direct that thought with energy, information, whether it be an action to a horse or a pencil to a paper, the action, following those thoughts, emotion, attitude, action, that energy or information transfers to the paper, transfers to the horse, gets fed back to the person, both ways. And it starts with a thought. And it's a lot of times people have great thoughts, but they never manifested it to become a reality. Whenever I look at vacant land on those homes that I built, I had the thought, there's a house going to be here. Well, if you channel that thought into, digging the first piece of excavation to pour the concrete to build the foundation to create the house, they started with a thought, manifested by thinking that thought over and over, and then allowing that energy or information to transfer into the reality of the house. Or the same thing with a horse. I think that's why I've been so blessed to be a good horseman. Is I get to see the horse, and I get to present to them some energy or information, and then manifest it to become a reality. That's the simplest way I could explain it. I think for this horse that I want them to be calm, quiet, thinking horse. I want them to be comfortable in the human element. I envision that way down the road, but I got to break it down to do a tiny piece and just ask them one simple question of, will you back up one hoof and then relax? And then we apply another question, back up another hoof and then relax. I mean, that's something very simple, but it's building blocks to get to, down the road where horse is totally comfortable in any and all situations. I can ask them to get in my trailer. We can go anywhere we want to go and do anything we want to do, and ask them to get back into the trailer and come back home. And nothing ever changed in their thoughts and their emotions, their attitude and their action uh, as if I put a halter on them or as if I ask them to get in the trailer. The harmony and balance within their mind and body stayed the same. It's connectivity, it's agreement. So that's what I envision every time I get with a horse and think those thoughts, present those actions, manifest it enough to where it becomes a reality. And it's just that simple, but it can be complicated if a person doesn't have control of themselves in order to implement those, channel that energy or information toward what they want, truly want. Some people say they want something, but then their thought went away and they didn't really want it.
Hmm. I mean, you don't mind talking or admitting that you didn't always used to think this way a while
No.
ago, and I know we've talked about this before. So you've come from a place of a slightly different Justin Dunn to where you are today, and this is through your own self-development with yourself and your horses, which I know your horses are at the forefront. So because sometimes there's a little concern when people do therapy with horses that it's all about the human element and the horses are there to do a job to help the human, where I know yours is nothing like that. You're very much working with both parties, and you've always got an eye on both horse and human, because if you don't, you get horses that burn out. So I understand that, and you've got such a good heart, Justin, that's not you anyway.
No, horses first. So we follow rules, beliefs, philosophies, and the belief is the horses first. If we're not presenting what we expect from the horse never lies, so they'll give feedback. If it's something undesirable, we can never blame the horse. We have to look here and then present. We have to make changes and then present accordingly to create desirable results or responses in the horse. So the horse is first. The only way the horse is going to aid us or help us do whatever it is we're trying to do, it has to be of benefit to the horse. They won't follow. They won't do it unless there's a benefit. So in order to get a horse to care enough to reveal the things that we're wanting to do, we have to care about ourselves and then prove to them we care about ourselves, present to them, and then that is an attraction. When the horse sees what you're trying to become or starting to become, they want to help. They're like, oh, you're actually trying to be a good person. I can help you with that. I wasn't that way long ago. I didn't look at it that way. I thought a little bit different. And I'm going to get you to do this, horse, because it's going to be your benefit. and this is just going to be good for you and you'll know it. But that's not the way it works. That was more forced compliance way of trying to do things. An attraction without promotion is what I really try to do now. It's something I want to create as a curiosity in the horse to want to be involved, because they see what we're trying to do for ourselves. We're literally doing our own push-ups and trying to become better people, upgrade ourselves. And then the horses step up and are ready, willing, and available to do that. So that's the difference from what I used to do, in prior to Moonshine to today. I want to present something to the horse that is worthy of them wanting to or be willing to be a part of. And whenever we go into it, level one, grooming for mindset, it's not grooming the horse for mindset. It's us. We groom ourselves. We literally are checking in with ourselves and asking ourselves, consciously say, what have I been thinking? What have I been feeling? What is my attitude? And what are my actions? I'll do things where, well, let me back up a little bit. In Colorado, I was building a house, for instance, and I'd have to build the house in a certain part of the day, and then I'd have to train horses for an income another part of the day. So I'm in the mindset of building a house, trying to hurry, get it done. It's something that doesn't feel pain. So I could cut a board with a saw, and that's not going to hurt the board. I can throw boards. I can bang on them with hammers. I can treat that house, rough, in a hurry, and get things done and make noise and all that. Well, I would be in that mindset, and I'd go down to train horses. And then the feedback from the horse is not desirable. So then I'd be willing to change, but it was generally to go faster and harder and heavier. Well, then it was even more undesirable. So I learned very quickly, like, okay, I've got to check in with myself and figure out, what have I been thinking? Well, I've been thinking in a hurry. What was my emotion? Well, I was frustrated. That's kind of frustrating to be in a hurry all day trying to get something done. And then if it doesn't get done, then you're even more frustrated. So, and then your attitude, I would check in. Attitude's not real good because I'm frustrated. Actions, well, they're jerky and they're fast and they're heavy. So I had to groom myself prior to even going to get involved with the horse. And I would check in, like, what have I been thinking for the last 12 hours? Or what was I thinking yesterday? What am I thinking now? What do I want to be thinking when I'm with the horse in the future? So what I would do is groom for mindset before I ever got to the horse. And I would check in with my 4 things: my thoughts, my emotions, my attitude, my action. And then I would start changing those. Whatever one needed the most change, I would change it. I would consciously think it, manifest it, then it'd be in a reality. I would walk different when I go to the horses. Sunshine taught me this. When I talk about mind and body, Moonshine was more on the mind, Sunshine's more on the body. Sunshine brought into perspective of what my body actions were doing before I was even conscious of them. So I would walk to his pen in our early days of training, and he would run away and run away from me. And then it would stop me in my tracks, and I would think, why is he doing this? I got to change something today that I did yesterday. So what is it? Well, I had whatever it was on my mind dominating my thoughts, causing a little frustration in the emotion. My attitude wouldn't be good. And my actions, my heels would hit the ground real hard. My shoulders would be tense. My eyes would be looking down on the ground, and I'd be kind of deep in thought on not this moment, something else. So Sunshine would pick up on that, and he'd run away. I would literally just stop in my tracks, turn, walk back, sometimes get in my truck if I had driven there, or just walk over to a tree and just kind of think about these 4 things. Like, what are my thoughts? Wow, I've been thinking very stressed out on building this house. While my emotion has been kind of, frustrated. My attitude is not enthusiastic at all. My actions are rigid and bracy and not free and flowing. So I would literally change those 4 things. I'd walk back towards Sunshine, and he'd meet me at the gate. The very first time I argued with myself, I was like, it's just a coincidence. Well, about the 18th time I got it. I was like, okay, yep, that's what I got to do. I got to groom myself before I present myself to this particular horse. Sunshine he reads intent. He's very empathetic. He understands things on a deeper level. And I get that. So, as we interact with individual horses over time, and we're consciously looking at ourselves as we present ourselves to that individual, that's what creates that willingness in them to, like, aha, I'll help you. I know what you need. Oh man, this is fun. I can do this. And then they see you growing and developing, which helps them grow and develop. And then you get this relationship that's so unique and so strong that outside influences have little to no effect on either one of you's 4 things. And that's what I try to explain in the book. That's why I can get on the back of a horse and I can ride anywhere in the world that I want to go. It does not matter. I can present to my horse, observe their feedback, make changes, get into such a strong circular feedback loop. It's not intermittent or distorted. It's free flowing and circular. Outside influences have little to no effect on my thoughts, my emotions, my attitude, or my action. The beautiful thing about that is I have the ability now to do it away from horses. So going into the human element for real, I have a lot more control and power to sustain, a harmonious and balanced relationship between my mind and body, and then outside of that. Standing in lines, I was given this example the other day. I do not like standing in lines. Actually, today I don't really care because I know what to do. But before, I just could not stand in line. It would really get me anxious. I really didn't understand why people do it. I mean, nothing made sense about standing in a line for me. But nowadays I can go, well, I just observe that thought and kind of giggle, and then my emotion gets kind of happy, and then my attitude perks up, and then my action is just chill out, relax. It's just a line. It's not that big a deal. But I would not have developed those skills of not playing with the wild horses and understanding that we can control these four things. They're given to us to control. They're within us. I can't control someone else's, but I can present to them the best version of myself to create a curiosity to want to join what I'm doing. So I try to explain that in the book too. And I use my wife as examples in that, but who knows if that's
that's a whole nother podcast, Justin.
What's that?
That's a whole nother podcast.
Exactly.
I loved the way you broke that down, and I'd forgotten because I used to be in your group, so I remember you used to do little live videos and chat, and then you show videos with your horses and conversations, and I remember the breakdown, how you described it, because if you think about it, if you're tense or you're angry or you're frustrated and your head's racing, so horses see that as sparks, 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 sparks. It's like boom, 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 boom. Your body is tense, and you might sort of be overbent slightly, which means your breathing is not as comfortable, but you don't think about it. You don't think, oh, my breathing's a bit shallow, perhaps I ought to change that. It's only when you start to think about what's going on, how am I today, which, as you said, horses are brilliant at that, that you start to look at yourself. And it's quite funny because you can laugh at yourself sometimes, especially if you have a real blowout and then you walk off and you're huffing and puffing, and then you think, oh, for God's sake, get a grip, girl. But it's funny because you can see the other side of it, and then your whole body, your demeanor changes. I found a good thing to do, and this was a while ago, but I haven't done it so much now, but it's sort of coming back in. I would smile for no reason, and I think I heard it on a podcast somewhere. It was I can't remember who it was, and he said the best thing to tell your brain that you're feeling okay today is smiling, even if you don't feel like smiling. And I thought, oh, I'll try this. So every morning in the car, it was like muscle memory. I'd sit in the car and I'd put this smile on. And I think it was about a week later, I would see myself smiling. I was thinking, I'm smiling. What have I got to smile about? But my muscle memory remembered it, and it remembered it, sit in the seat, turn the ignition on, smile. And then that went throughout the day. But I found that little exercise really helped with my mindset, because it was like they were having a conversation, and it's almost like my mind was saying, well, why are you smiling? And it's like, because I want to smile. And I know that's not how it works, but that's how it felt. And it really made a big improvement to how I felt in that day. It helped lift my spirits. And then I found, because I was lifted, other things would come in, a nicer energy would flow in, which would bring benefits for that too. When you was talking about horses reflect, and they're such a big influence with most people, I think it's because they're quite accessible. Now, even if you don't have a horse, you can see them. You can maybe pass a field and there's a horse in a field, and you get something from that as well. If it's a nice day and you're going for a walk, most animals can give you a similar experience, but we don't always look at them in the same way. I know whales and dolphins and sea animals, but again, if you're not near the sea, that's not something you're going to interact with. But horses are probably the nearest thing, genuine thing that we can interact with, even from a distance, that we can get a feel back. And of course, they've got the most amazing big hearts, so their energy resonates far further than we realize at times, and that has a definite effect.
Oh yeah. So you're talking about smiling intentionally. That's a form of self-suggestion. So whenever we teach horsemanship, a person will start to think thoughts that what if this horse does this or does that? Usually it's something negative. If a person will self-suggest to themselves, be brave, just say that, be brave. Because the horse is already just sitting there, he's already brave. The person generally is what gets the thought going, and then the energy transfers, and then the horse starts to get concerned, like, wait, what should I be doing here? Should I be concerned? So that self-suggestion is what we refer to as when your mind starts going in a direction you don't want it to, thoughts start coming in that you don't want, do something to change the thought, which is either say something or do something. And that's kind of thinking in association of. So when you see a horse, people think in the association of a horse. They feel good. They smile. They're happy. I mean, horses are so impressive beings. Just looking at them brings joy to people. So thinking in association of things, we utilize that a lot with horses. So like my bitless bridle, every horse that I have, when I show them that bitless bridle, they do nothing different than if I showed them a halter. But I have clients that have come and we show their horse a bridle with a bit, and the horse does not want it. Thinking in association of those things, horses that are, you go ahead and put a bit in the horse's mouth that doesn't want it, his thoughts are already going toward that object, and thinking in association of that, the emotion can follow, the attitude can follow, and then ultimately actions can follow. Whether they're desirable or undesirable, it depends on how that bridle is used in order to cause the horse to think in association of whether it's a negative or a positive. So in understanding those laws of nature and presenting to the horse and observing feedback, making changes, doing it again to get the most desirable results, whatever we're doing, and then for ourselves or for our horses, thinking in association of those things will create those four things to follow: thoughts, emotion, attitude, action. So anything that we do, we try to create a thought in association of whatever it is we're doing, that the thought that we want. So let me give you another example. If we got a horse that does not enjoy to trot in circles, well, we're probably not going to take them into the round pen and trot them in circles, because every time you go to the round pen, they're like, I don't want to do this, because they've already thought in association of that round pen and what gets done to them in there. So we'll take them into the round pen and we'll ground tie and groom them. And then we change that thought by doing that. That's just one example. There's so many more, but you brought up a couple of things with making yourself smile. Now I can take that same concept and I can trigger body responses of relaxation within myself or my horse, or vice versa. So for example, we transfer up in level 3 onto a horse's back, and we do some exercises, and then we do a one rein stop, and we trigger that horse to relax we take a deep breath, we drop our shoulders, relax our hips, relax our legs, take a deep breath, pause for a few seconds to allow all the processes we just did to catch up. And then we do what's law of repetition. We do that over and over and over. The second we pick up a rein to ask for a one rein stop and the horse stops his feet, his body automatically does it, relaxes. That trigger is there by thinking in association of the one ring stop, the person relaxing, sending information or energy of relaxation, triggering the body response to relax. Then the restrictions in the mind free up. Then that connection gets stronger. And then collectively over time, anytime my horses start to disconnect in mind and body, I can reconnect it. It's that fast. It's like plugging in an extension cord. Oh, their brain and their body are starting to disconnect. Put it in, and then I can tape it. I can get duct tape on it so it doesn't come apart. Not really, but it's one of those things where it's this. Whenever we sit down and start analyzing ourselves in thought, emotion, attitude, action, understand there are two pathways of communication: breathing, heart rate. Horse can hear our heart rate from 3 to 4 feet away. So when I'm on his back, he can hear that. If my heart starts beating faster and I feel that, I will change a thought, present to my horse to help my heart rate come down, help my body relax, sends information to the horse so he can do the same thing. And then vice versa. I'll get horses that are new. I got one in 2 days ago, and his heart rate came up, his body got tense, his breathing got, erratic. And then I just present to him, and then he started getting it. He's like, oh, so thinking an association of whatever it is can trigger we could call it negative or positive, but it can trigger a response, desirable or undesirable. So that smiling, I'm glad you brought that up, because I teach that in class. Some people get real serious, especially these military folks. They get real serious at trying to learn how to do their hands, how to do their legs. And then I'll say one ring stop, trigger responsive relaxation. They'll do all that, and then they'll look at me, and I'll tell them, just smile. And then they will. And they're like, yeah, I'm having fun. I don't know why I'm so serious. But it's just, sometimes there's a little restriction there, or there's a little barrier. And then consciously doing something to trigger what you really want to happen, to follow. And that's thinking in association of those things. So you smile, your body's recognizing it, your subconscious is recognizing it. So then all we got to do is consciously do it enough to where it just becomes natural. So glad you brought that up. That's good.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. My other thing I used to do with my first horse, she was called Ferry, and she was owned by, I don't know whether you'll know these people, but Jerry and the Pacemakers. Have you heard of them?
No.
No, they're an English group from way back, and they bought a racehorse, and she was a yearling. So they called her Ferry Across the Mersey. That was a famous song of theirs. So her name was Ferry, and she was a racehorse. So she went from stop to gallop. There was no in between bits when I first got her, and I'm a novice. So we used to just walk out. We used to walk and do trots, walk and trot. That's all we used to do. We used to go out hacking. And I remember the first time that I canted on her, and I totally trusted her because I knew her and she knew me. And it was the most magical experience. We went in an open field. There was a hedge at the end, and I was thinking, well, if she doesn't stop, she'll jump it. And I was hoping that she'd stop or slow down. And we canted, and it was just, oh God, it was amazing. But she didn't make the cut as a racehorse because she would catch up to the horse. So she would be at the back and she would go really fast. But as soon as she caught up to the first horse that she come into contact with, she would pace at that level. She wouldn't go past that horse. So for me, that was perfect because I knew she wasn't going to just try and take off. But what we used to do is, if I could feel myself getting nervous because there was somewhere different, or I could just feel some tension within myself, I used to sing. Now I can't sing, but I used to sing "Ferry Cross the Mersey," and her little ears would be going tweet, 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 tweet. And I'm sure she was saying by the 20th time, "Oh, not that song again."
Well, that's exactly what I would do too. And in thinking an association of things, whenever we sing, it's generally because of joy. I don't know of anybody that sings. No, it's for joy. And I would get into a position with my horse as a kid, and I wouldn't know what to do. So I did that. I just start singing to him, and it was very powerful because he would relax. But it was me. I relaxed and presented that to him, and then he observed that, and then he took in that information or energy, and it was very calming. And I can't sing either, so.
But you can't hold your breath when you're singing. So because you can feel yourself tensing up and you're shallow breathing, and sometimes you are holding your breath because you're listening for something or expecting something to happen. And if you start singing, however bad that may be, you can't hold your breath. So you breathe a little bit, and they have a sigh of relief because there's not a solid bottom on their back. There's a bit more movement.
Exactly.
Justin, is it your birthday today?
Mine?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
No.
somebody's just messaged saying happy birthday. I don't know.
Well, happy birthday to you. Thank you. No, mine is in February.
Oh, okay.
No, not today.
Oh, okay, that's good. I haven't missed it. Okay, so we've been going for an hour, but that's fine. Is there anything else that you'd like to chat about? What have you got? Oh, actually, before then, sorry, I'm interrupting you now. 3 times this has come into my awareness, and I've no idea why I want to say this to you, but there's a real buzz of excitement, and it's with your horses around what's going on. So that's quite funny, actually, because he's just said happy birthday and it's not your birthday. Synchronicities. But there's a buzz of excitement, and 3 times it's come in, and you was talking, so I didn't want to interrupt you. So is there something that you're planning, or is there something at your facility, but there is a buzz of excitement about something that's coming forward?
Well, the book, I've been pretty excited and focused on getting the book out. So I'm hopeful, and that's probably not the best word, but I can see that there's something big coming in the benefit of horsemanship, humanity, because the things I get to do, and I didn't even mention a lot of the things, they're in the book, and I want to keep that, find out. But I tell some stories in there of transformation for people that were in a very dark place, and then they found light through horses in a very short amount of time. 15 to 17 hours, I get to see some of the most beautiful transformations, and that's just 2 hours a week. So not very much time in the sense of time, but the thing that's probably big is that hopefully this book will get into the right hands, and some things that really need to shift will shift. The way people think of horses and look at horses, I think this will be an eye-opening book, because horses were a lot of utilitarian type, treated as equipment a lot of ways. Today, I don't think that's needed. I mean, I know it's not needed, but it's one of those things. There's only 2.5 million horse owners in the United States. So we have 330 million people. There's only 9 million horses in the United States. So accessibility, you mentioned accessibility. It is easier, but it's not on those type numbers. I can count at least 5 people that have come through my gate in the last 2 years that have never pet a horse, and never would have ever considered horse therapy or horsemanship, horse communication, nothing like that. These are 15, 17-year Army active duty personnel, and just never had accessibility to horses. Whenever the book gets out, I'm hoping that this will go to every horse rescue in America. I hope it'll go to every private school. I hope it'll go to every public school to teach in a horsemanship class, because they could pick any level. They could stay at level 1, doesn't matter. They can go all the way up to level 5. But it's a door that's there, that's got to be open, and enough people walk through it, they can realize, oh wow, there is a whole other side to horsemanship and horses that we don't know about. Because a lot of the things they see are on TV, you know, rodeo, barrel racing, horse racing, whatever. My book, I may not ever see the fruits of the labor of this book in my lifetime, which is fine. But 100 years from now, I kind of envision that this long-term sustainability of horses will be what's in this book, not what people are seeing, you know, on TV. The humanity, in my opinion, these are all my opinion, okay? They statistics are 150 million people or 160 million people live paycheck to paycheck. They're at a time in their life where they're very frustrated. Where are they going to turn? That type thing, and it compounds in all other realms: religion, spiritualism, whatever. There's a lot of people that are not diagnosed with mental illness, but there's 54 million Americans diagnosed with mental illness, some form. So the like horse racing is not going to fix somebody's mental illness. I mean, and it's just not. And what I wrote in the book will. It will. I do it for myself, so I know it works. Every individual, every one of them, 100% success rate that's come in here and implements this has turned their life around. They come out of a dark place into a light, and they have a new perspective on life, real life, not what we see on the news, not what the guy's doing out there next to you. No, real life. When you're in the quiet space of your own self, the reality is what they learned in horsemanship, because horses bring you back into nature, bring you back into what's real. And it's so true and honest. The body recognizes it very quick. The mind has a little trouble, but it comes along. But it's one of those things where if you're feeling that type of energy, my horses have been a part of it. Each and every one of them, they've been a contributor to development of this book, this school, and transforming those lives of those individuals that came here. So they're buzzing, man. They're like, we were the guys, we're the team. You were the team. Y'all did it. You're the ones. So that may be what you're picking up on.
Do you know what?
Because they're excited as I am.
Yeah, I think it is. And horses talk in a collective manner as well. They don't just converse independently. And that's the benefit of all. That's the benefit of all horses and humans alike. And anything that can help, even if it's just one person, but I know it's going to reach a lot of people. But if you can change one person to let them see that they're special and they can change their life, but they have to just look within themselves and start to acknowledge what's there and to adjust what they need to adjust so that they can present a different aspect of who they are. We're all very good at hiding behind masks and what we think we should be and what we think people want to see. And 9 out of 10 times, that other person probably doesn't even want to see that, but we perceive that to be the way. Anything that can start that process of opening somebody up to themselves and to make a change, to make even a little change is worth its weight in gold. So I think your passion comes through in this, and your horses, and you've got such a big heart, as I've said before. And I was smiling because I've forgotten. I remember doing ground tie with Toots, and she's 21 now. When I first was introduced to you, and she still remembers that. I can drop the rope. I might not do a lot of else with her, Justin, but I can drop the rope, and she remembers that. And I think I used to do the one rein stop, which I actually used, and that was a long time ago, and it worked. It worked. We did a smaller circle. Instead of the horse falling over, she knew to bend. She didn't brace against it. And so I was smiling when you mentioned that, because I thought, oh, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a benefit to the horse, to the human. It's life enrichment for both. That's the whole purpose of horsemanship in the first place, is life enrichment, upgrade. And these things that I get to witness the horses do for people. I can't do it for the people. Neither can the horses, really. The person has to do it themselves. They have to do their own push-ups. I tell these guys, because they understand that. So I can't do their push-ups for them. The thing about what I see horses teach people is helps them find three things that they have to know in life in order to live a successful life, a fulfilled life. And the three things that I see horses help people understand is that they do have a purpose, and then that there's a systematic way to follow a flexible plan. And then the only thing they have to do is take action and be willing to not be perfect. A lot of our military personnel that come out here, they think they got to be perfect. I mean, the jobs that they do require a lot of them, and have kind of brainwashed them into, you do this perfect. Well, when I teach horsemanship here, it's like, there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. It's progression, progression. We just want to progress. Every living organism on earth wants to advance and progress. So horses understand when a person has got a plan and they're taking action to fulfill a certain purpose, they step up and aid them in doing that. And then they develop an understanding of how it works. So they'll have a minor purpose, and it could be something simple as taking the horse from cone A to cone B, and then have that thought, have the purpose, implement it through a plan by taking action. And then once they accomplish point A to B, then do the next one, and then compound it. And then they start to create a habit, and it gets solid to where their subconscious picks up on that. And they go, oh, so when we identify the purpose, we can create a plan and keep it flexible. I always stress flexibility in a plan, and then take action. That's how you train a horse. That's how you build a relationship. That's how you write a book. That's how you build a house. That's how you do whatever it is we are called to do on this planet. Just do those three things. And it's not hard. We will complicate it. Oh man, we can do that. But breaking it down into tiny little pieces in horsemanship, when I refer to, I'll ask a horse to back up one hoof at a time, that's kind of breaking it down into tiny pieces. I could ask the horse to back up. That's no problem. But break it down into tiny pieces. I've got to think it, so I got to see it, and then I got to do it. So the horse does the same thing. Once we interact in that manner, those things that we didn't know before, the horse is filling in the uncertainties, the information that we didn't have, and helping us think and do those three things each and every time we're together, whether it be first interaction, grooming for mindset level 1, or a level 5 rider that's got 60 hours with this horse and they're out riding in nature and an extended feedback loop. There's a purpose, there's a plan, they're taking action. And it's broken down into tinier pieces to accomplish minor purposes. And then it's thinking in the combination of things to accomplish a bigger purpose. And then once the person gets clarity on that, they can fix anything within them and around them. They realize what they can control and what they can't control, and they're fine with both. That's the clarity horsemanship brings to the human, especially when they're in an erratic, chaotic state, disconnected from mind and body, not aware of what their actions are presenting to the rest of the world, and feeling attacked whenever it's called upon called to their attention. When a person can go and interact with a horse and then slowly get evidence of what they need to know to make changes, then when a person does say, hey, you're doing X, they can compensate and maybe have new coping mechanisms to address it than they had before. Rather than coming off top rung at somebody, they know how to scale it from 1 to 10. Well, I'll respond at a 2 rather than an 8, because the same thing with a horse. We've got to feel that horse, that individual, provide proper pressure, proper time, proper response, meaning ask the proper question at the proper time to get the desirable response. Same thing. So how do we do that? Well, we have to check in here, present it, observe, make changes, do it again. Once collectively over time that's developed, you have that ability and skill to do it anywhere you go with anybody you meet.
Perfect explanation. So your Facebook group, that still goes. You said that earlier. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll post links so people can have a look at that on your Facebook page and also your website. So if they want to contact you, which is the best place?
The best place is probably email or go to my website, because then they can play around on the website, and they can actually join my Facebook group through my website. Actually pay through there and then ask to join in Facebook, and then I add them in. I've taken a small break from posting a lot of things in there because there are so many videos in there now, but we're scheduled to start doing more videos in the future. Kind of waiting on the book to come out, and then that's just going to be the topic.
Yeah. Exciting times, and your horses are definitely excited. I think that's what it is, the buzz of what's going to come from that, because horses don't have time frames like we do.
No.
It's it's a difference. So they're probably aware of what's coming in certain areas more than we are. It's been fascinating chatting with you, Justin, and it's so lovely to catch up with you again. Yeah. And I can't wait for your book to come out so I can have a read of it. So as soon as it does, if you send me a link, and then I'll put that on my page, and then people can get to it from there as well. Is there anything that you'd like to just say? Any piece of information that you think would help anybody, whether they've got horses or not, just for themselves before you go?
Yeah, this is probably the most, what I'm about to say is the probably most wisdom-based comment I've ever said in my life. Are you ready?
Oh God, yeah, go on.
Okay, here it comes. Horses don't wear a watch, so they always have time.
You don't say. That's where I've been going wrong. Oh my God. Oh, actually, do you know what? I haven't worn a watch for years. I haven't, but yeah, we are. Yeah. Oh, it's been lovely, Justin. So if you'd like to say goodbye, and then I'll pop you out, and then I'll just have a little quick chat with you before you go.
Okay.
So if you'd like to say bye to the viewers.
Well, bye, everyone. I don't even know how many of you are here, but thanks for coming and watching our show.
I'll just pop you out. See you soon. Oh, what a lovely guy. I was so looking forward to chatting with him. And I can't wait to read his book. I remember being in his group, and it was very, very helpful, because I hope it come across when he was explaining, but he breaks things down really easy. And it's easier to understand, interpret. So when he was talking about your mindset and how that affects your body and everything else, it helped me when I was on my own with my horse, and you haven't got anybody nearby, so you need some help and some guidance. And Justin was one of the first people that I came across, and so I will be forever grateful for that experience. And it still stands today, and I haven't done that for ages, but it was fun to remember. Thank you very much for the people that joined. I do hope you enjoyed this little conversation with Justin. I shall post all the links so you can reach him. And if you've got any questions that you'd like to just put to Justin, I'm sure he'll be happy to answer if he can. Have a lovely week, rest of the week, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very, very much. Take care and speak to you soon. Bye for now.